networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by Advanced Septic Services and our newest sponsor, Fuse Networks. My name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the BD local studios in Tacoma, Washington. So, Joe, before we get started, can you tell our new listeners and viewers how our podcast came to be, please?
Sure. So the podcast first started out as a Facebook group page, and the purpose was to bring business owners together to kind of just communicate with one another and share maybe questions and stories and kind of just help business out in general. Being that we're in marketing and we talk to a lot of different businesses and they have a lot of different questions outside of marketing, we thought what a great way then to combine that with a podcast where we bring on different guest speakers to talk about all different topics that relate to business in some form or fashion.
Awesome. And today's topic, Joe, you want to do a quick intro of our topic and our guests before I start reading our bio?
So we have the topic today is leading through relationships. And I had reached out to Miss Brittany Wagner a couple times through Instagram. And one time I actually got through. So thank you for actually responding to my message. But Brittany Wagner is, she was on the Netflix series called Last Chance You. And she has a book out called Next Chance You.
Awesome. So Brittany, welcome. I'll just kind of do a formal introduction. So Brittany Wagner is a nationally respected athletic academic counselor and motivational speaker, best known for her role as a breakout star of the hit Netflix documentary series, Last Chance You. Recognized for her compassion, encouragement, and no-nonsense attitude, Brittany guided many young men to academic and professional success, despite run-ins with the law, extreme poverty, abandonment, and often a complete lack of academic preparedness. She has helped over 200 football players academically qualify for nationally respected NC2A Division I schools, and all the students that she has advised who are currently playing in the NFL also hold college degrees. That's a pretty amazing testament on its own. Brittany's inadvertent stardom led her to future interviews with Good Morning America, ABC's Nightline, The Dan Patrick Show, The New York Times, and Sports Illustrated, to name a few. Joe, take it over.
Yep. For the past 4 years, Brittany has traveled all over the country as a motivational speaker. In the fall of 2017, she launched her own company called 10,000 Pencils, or 10KP. Through 10KP, she is able to aid at-risk youth by working individually with high school and college level administrators, counselors, and teachers to help them build relationships with these students and better support their emotional, social, and academic needs. Brittany's first book, Next Chance You, Tools, Tips, and Tough Love for Bringing Your A Game to Life, was published in September of 2021. Brittany earned her undergraduate and graduate degrees in sports communication and administration from Mississippi State University. She is currently a professor in the College of Business at the University of Montevideo. She resides in Birmingham, Alabama, with her teenage daughter, Kennedy, and their dog, Ollie. One thing real quick, as I was listening to the Good Morning Show interview you had with Michael Strahan, you mentioned something that really resonates, and I just want to get your quick thought on it, which is live your life intentionally, show up, and be an advocate for others. First, let's welcome Brittany, and then if I can get your quick thought on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So Good Morning America, the showing up, that's the first chapter of my book, actually, chapter 1, right off the bat. I lead with, you got to show up. And actually, when I was working with athletes, that was always my first rule for academics was show up to class. Like this first week of school, all I need you to do is show up. That's your only rule for 1 week, is to just show up. because I would say to them, you're not going to make the best grade possible in a class that you don't attend. You may cannot attend and make a C, but you would have made a B or an A if you had actually gone and applied yourself. And I feel the same is true with life. You know, if we don't show up for our own lives in a real intentional way, not just going through the motions, checking the boxes and hoping for the best, that's not showing up. But really being intentional with our time, being intentional with our actions, we're not really living. And you can't advocate for others if you're not advocating for yourself first. And so I feel like what we're here for, what we're on the earth for, is to kind of advocate for others. And so we've got to advocate for ourselves first, and then start helping other people in order to really live our best lives.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's almost like the best word to start a new year. It's my word for 2022 is being intentional with, not going through the motions. And when you set it off, it's January, you got 11 more months after this. If you don't start out first showing up in January, it doesn't look good for the rest of the year. So this is a great episode to set the tone. But real quick, before we move forward, our previous guest, all the way from the Netherlands, so we're going globetrotting here, Joe, Martijn Mema, Business Intuition. What was one of your key takeaways from our previous episode?
His topic was really using your intuition in everyday life and in your business. And for me, it was just going back to learning to trust my gut more often with business decisions. Sometimes you don't have to rely on logical things. Sometimes it's just that gut feeling that you have. And sometimes that's what you need to do to make decisions.
Right. And he says that in his book, using all your senses and everything. Right. So we'll post the links to that, but a pretty cool episode to end the year. Now we're starting the year off right. So let's get to know Brittany a little bit more. So Brittany, we asked our guests the same 3 questions. So our first question is, what are some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur?
For me, I think the earliest and biggest lesson that I've learned so far is that a platform doesn't equal success. And for me, people, you're on a Netflix show, and honestly, I don't know that there's a bigger platform to be on. And all of a sudden, I'm propelled to kind of overnight fame through Netflix. I'm on the biggest streaming service that there is with a top 10 hit show. My social media explodes. I get the blue check. I mean, I have all of the things that people would think they would need to have in order to be successful or start a successful business. And honestly, it doesn't equal success. I mean, and if I had sat back and thought that, there are a lot of people that were on the same show I was on that have really done nothing to capitalize off of it. There are a lot of people on other TV shows or other platforms that have blue check marks that aren't really capitalizing off of it because they're not willing to do the work. And I think for me, that was the biggest lesson. Was there was a part of me that thought, oh, okay, well, now I'm good. Like I've been on a Netflix show. I'm going to put my pencil down and sit back and just watch the deals come rolling in. And it didn't happen. And it wasn't until I started going through those blue check, going through Twitter and reading the thousands of messages and reading the thousands of emails that I got, and started to really put some work and some effort behind the platform, that success started coming. If just sitting back and hoping for the best, again, like I said, would have really not gotten me here. And the reason that I think I've been able to sustain the company and I'm still sitting here doing it 4 years later is because I've been willing to put the work behind it.
So just real quick, kind of off topic a little bit, but so were your first experiences kind of on the show, and after going through social, kind of being more aware, was that the impetus for starting like the book, or did you have always a book in mind that you're going to write, or how did that kind of come to be real quick?
No, I did not have a book in mind. I had none of this in mind because I did not think that anyone would ever care what I had to say. So there was none of this was in the plan. It all just kind of, I think that I have awareness. And so I was open to any opportunity and possibility, and I was willing to do the work, but I didn't have it all planned out in this way. But yeah, the book really came from the thousands of emails that I would get, and I still get, from fans of the show. Believe it or not, there are still people watching it for the first time, which amazes me. And so I'll still get messages from people saying, hey, I just watched it. And it came from those emails and those people reaching out saying, gosh, I wish I had had someone like you in my life when I was in college. Maybe I wouldn't be in the spot I'm in. Or saying, you know, look, I watched that show and I'm 42, realizing that I haven't even tapped into my potential yet. And you just motivated me to change careers or to go back to school or to just be a better human being. And so I started looking at those emails and thinking, okay, how can I continue the message? Like, how can I package it all? I'm not going to be on another TV show, but how can I package it all and put it out there so that people, you know, will continue to get the message and continue to get the inspiration and motivation?
Yeah, that's so awesome.
So what has been in your journey? What's been the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I talk about it in my book, but my dad's a psychologist. And so when you're growing up, college is when it kind of became cool that he was a psychologist. Before that, not so much. But in college, I got free counseling. You know, I got my dad over here. It's like free therapy. And I would call him and I would have this dramatic story. You know, the world was coming to an end because I was 20 and everything was a big deal. And I would call him and think, and I would go through my whole story. And then I would wait, you know, intently for his profound advice. And it was always, Brittany, this too shall pass. Just hold on. And I was so frustrating as a 20-year-old because I wanted him to get in the hole with me. You know, I wanted him to think that I was being wronged or that I was right or that it was as dramatic as I wanted it to be. And so I would kind of get frustrated that was always his advice. But man, the older I get, the more I completely believe it was the best advice I've ever been given because it's true. No high ever last. You know, I mean, the mountains don't last forever and the valleys don't last forever. You know, pandemics don't last forever. I mean, nothing really lasts forever. And so I think even in my high moments, you know, even when life's going great and I think I'm great, I will remind myself, this will not last, Brittany.
Right.
So you better have something sustainable underneath it because people aren't going to think you're great forever, you know, like you gotta continue to do the work. But at the same time, you know, life won't be rough forever either. So hold on, you know, just hold on and realize that nothing's permanent. Everything's temporary.
Yeah, we've had two speakers on in the past from the Limitless Minds team, Travis Thomas and Casey Jaycox, and their whole thing with Trevor Moawad's work is like staying neutral. So that kind of hit that there. And then almost a nod to our previous guest, that intuition, like that gut feeling that Joe referenced and that you referenced, like other people are on the show too, but you had something that you had to do the work to capitalize it that kind of got you going. So thank you for sharing that. So our last question, since this is a marketing podcast, why is marketing important?
Look, again, I mean, I think marketing is important because the platform doesn't equal success. I mean, you know, you can have the greatest product on the planet. You can have, but if nobody knows about it and you're not sharing it and you're not putting it out there, then what good is it? I mean, I could write a New York Times bestseller, but if nobody's reading it, then who cares? So, you know, I think that and the thing about marketing is I struggle with it sometimes, especially social media marketing, which is what we're supposed to do these days, because it seems it's self-promoting, and which is kind of can be weird sometimes, can feel weird.
Right.
For me anyway, you know, it feels narcissistic when you're just constantly promoting yourself or something that you've done. But the reality is, if I'm not proud of it, and if I made it and created it, and I'm not confident enough and proud enough of it to promote it, then who's going to buy it? Like, who would want it if I don't believe in it as the creator of it?
Right.
And so I think we should really start looking at look at things in marketing in that perspective of, if I am the creator and founder and believer in it, and I don't have the confidence to put it out there, why will other people pick it up and buy it? You know, and without the ability to market products and market who we are and market our own brains, how are we going to know?
Right.
So I think that I am a marketing. I think at the base of everything we do is marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like at the base of our own lives and every product and every thing that we've created and done, there's marketing there, or we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't know about it.
Right. So that's a good segue into our Valor Cares initiative, marketing. And you talked about what you do to kind of give back. We came up with an initiative in the pandemic, April, almost 2 years ago, our hashtag Valor Cares. So can you just give a quick plug for our Valor Cares initiative, please?
Sure. The whole purpose behind it was to give back to local businesses and then now nationwide. But if you have a business and you don't have a website, or you maybe have a website that's outdated and don't have access to it and are looking to have a website rebuilt, we would love to help you out through our Valor Cares, where we build a couple free websites every single month.
Awesome. So we'll share that information. So we always ask our guests to share a motivational quote. So this one's by Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena, but I'll read it. It was long. So a kind of another good way to start the year is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So, Brittany, what was your inspiration, or, why did you want to share that quote with our audience today?
I love that quote. Every time I hear it, I get re-inspired and reinvigorated. I think it is a perfect quote although it was written many, many years ago by Teddy Roosevelt, how it applies to today, it's almost like he could see the future. Because with social media, how many critics are there? I mean, everybody's a critic. Everybody has an opinion, and they think that because they have an opinion, they get to say it. and I need to be reminded that no one is walking in my shoes but me. Only one foot can be in my shoe at one time, and it's mine. And if people aren't walking in my shoes and they aren't living my life, then I don't need their feedback, because they're not in the arena with me. And if I'm fighting the fight and I'm in the arena and I'm working hard and I'm the one getting sucker punched every 5 seconds, and you're up in the stands watching me, until you're down there with me, I don't really need your feedback, because you don't actually know. You think you know, but you don't know.
Right.
I think it's an important quote in working with athletes. It's a quote and a concept that I tell them all the time. That Monday morning quarterback didn't get on the field probably ever. So when you get on Twitter and you're reading someone's critical, observation of how you played on Saturday or Sunday, who cares? They haven't gone through one practice. Because what we can do, though, is we start talking ourselves out of our dreams and start talking ourselves out of our ability to live our best life because of what somebody sitting behind a keyboard, is saying on Twitter. And we limit ourselves because of the feedback we're getting from people who don't even know us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that quote is so important to, not let the critic be the opinion that counts.
Well, there's so many closet haters on social media. People hide behind a fake profile, whatever, these burner accounts. So that goes again to gut intuition and just being confident in your own skin. So
absolutely.
All right, so now we come to our Fuse Networks Did You Know segment. So
Fuse Networks, providing IT managed services and solutions in the Pacific Northwest since 2009.
So Fuse Networks is our newest sponsor, managed IT services. And this is kind of our Did You Know segment. So this one, since I'm a stats guy, it didn't really hurt my feelings, but Brittany said, and I'll try to grill her on it. No, just kidding. We rely too heavily on stats. So for us, we're a digital marketing company, data-driven, results-based approach. But you're talking with different things in the business. People sometimes rely on that too much. Can you kind of share that, what your thought on that with us, please?
I think sometimes we get caught up in the stats, we get caught up in the outcome. And when we get caught up in the outcome, we lose the ability to enjoy or value the process and the journey. And most of the times the process is human beings. And so, we start a company because we want to make an impact or we want to help people. Usually the why behind what we do as human beings is because of human beings and a connection or making a difference in people's lives. But then we get caught up in the data and the statistics and how to make money or how to, get the most views or and we lose the whole entire reason why we started it in the first place. And so then we move away from why we started it and we move into a different direction of just doing what we got to do to be successful. And usually we're not happy in that. At some point we lose our own tank isn't getting filled. We're no longer happy. It's no longer fulfilling us. And so we sell out, start something else. And because we've lost sight of what we're doing in the first place. I think I first came up with it. I first kind of realized I'm not a stats person. I'm throwing stats out the window. I'm relationship driven, connection. That's what we need to focus. That came to me through our education system, honestly, because you have so many kids who are valued based on a test score. They're told yes or no based on a 4-hour test that they took on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And their whole life is planned out for them because of that test score, or just the statistics of education, of that 3rd grade reading test. And then all of a sudden you don't do well on that 3rd grade reading test and you're still suffering the consequences of it in 10th grade, and we lost sight of the fact that there's children with social and emotional needs that are going through experiences and going through situations in life, but we completely discredit that because we're solely focused on the statistics of education. And the reality is a starving child or a child who's endured trauma, their brains have formed differently and they're incapable of learning at the same rate that a child who has not endured that trauma has gone through. But we lose sight of all that because we lose sight of the fact that we're working with human beings when we solely rely on statistics.
I think this next one's good, kind of tease that up. So meet people where they are, not where you want or expect them to be. It's a great segue, right? Not only for the learner, but just talk about it in business, meet people where they are.
We have this expectation that, that everybody walks in the door at the level that you want them to be at. And the reality is we don't. You hire someone new in your company and they're 22 years old and it's their first job and they're thrown into it. They're not going to, the confidence isn't going to be there. The ability to step back and take emotion out of it and think logically through a situation probably isn't going to quite be there. And depending on what's going on in people's lives, it affects their performance. It affects their ability. But so many times we want to just discredit that. And we have this, suck it up mentality when we're not wired that way. We're humans and we are emotional people. And so I think meeting people where they are and then growing them from there. So that means we're not all going to grow at the same rate or at the same level at the same time, but also playing to people's strengths. When you meet people where they are, you can play to their strengths and you're not asking someone that's not a good communicator to be a good communicator. You're finding the person within your organization that is a good communicator and you're giving them that role, and you're finding the strengths of everybody within your organization and letting them play to their strengths. So then you're building confidence because everyone feels good about themselves because the things that they are good at are being highlighted. Therefore, the things that they're not good at are not being judged.
Right.
But I think so many times we pick people and we say, like, we want you to be a good communicator, so then do it. That's your job. Well, but if it's not my quality, it's not my quality. So yeah, I think it's meeting people where they are. When you're trying to lead through relationships, if you're not doing that, then you're way off.
So let's get into that a little bit more before we close the podcast. So leading through relationships. What I want to first ask, though, the pencil, 10,000 pencils in 30 seconds. Why did you choose that name, and tell us the story behind how that came to be?
The 10,000 pencils name came from Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, 10,000 hours of effort. And, we give up on that 9,000th hour of effort, but it takes 10,000 to be an expert. And so I took that concept and parlayed it to, handing out the 10,000th pencil and impacting the 10,000th life, and just continuing to put one foot in front of the other and keep doing what I'm doing until everyone's affected.
So if there are one or two things you could tell our audience, for the entrepreneurs, small business people out there, people thinking of starting companies, leading through relationships, when you work with businesses or you come across different businesses, what are one or two things that you could leave with them, or one or two things they should stay away from as we kind of start to kick off this new year?
I think, for me, staying away from the belief and thought that you have to have it all figured out to start. Here I was sitting there, I was a single mom, walking away from a steady paycheck, from benefits, from all the things. And there was that moment where I thought, okay, but I have to have it all figured out. And preparation does not equal perfection. So you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have the $10,000 website right off the bat. You can do the Squarespace, the cheap one, and to get started. And then with the expectation or the goal that you'll grow it enough to be able to then afford the bigger website. But if you're waiting for all of the pieces to come into play and all the boxes to be checked, you're going to be waiting forever, because there's always going to be something.
Right.
And I think, my biggest piece of advice is just do it. Just figure out, okay, what are the three things that I have to have in place in order to get this thing started? And then when those three things are in place, go for it. And have belief and confidence in yourself and your abilities to know that the rest will come. It will happen, and it will come if you continue to work for it. It's not all going to come within that 5-day time span that you want it to. So be patient, keep working hard. My advice would be, don't rely on the statistics. So, I have a business manager who a lot of times he wants me as a motivational speaker to be in a price range. And so if people aren't willing to pay within that price range, he wants to say no. And I'm the person that's like, well, but wait a minute, how many people, what kind of people, what part of the country? And it never fails. Every time I take a speaking engagement for lower than my range, it pays dividends. Mm-hmm. Never fails, because it's the right audience who I will then spawn 10 more speaking engagements off of. But so, again, it's not just looking at the numbers, it's looking at the human beings and who is in the room for this. How could this pay off in a different way? Mm-hmm. And so I think that having awareness of that it's not always about the numbers is key too. Yeah. And I'm going to go right back to the quote on the third one. Don't pay attention to the critics. If you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing, and there's a why behind it and a passion behind it, then who cares what everybody else thinks? You got to do it for yourself, because you don't want to be the person at the end wondering what if you had gone for it. And so don't pay attention to the people that aren't brave enough or smart enough to do it themselves. You do it. If you have the idea, go for it. Believe in yourself wholeheartedly. Be willing to do the work, but shut the critics down.
Nice. So I have to ask, can you give a shout out for your book? How do people find it? I have a copy. You probably can't see, but I have a copy right here. I'm not a big reader, but I've been reading through it slowly, and I've been grabbing little nuggets of information. And when I do that, I share it on social media so I can help push it out there, because if I'm learning something, then other people will learn it as well. But give a what do they call it? Promote yourself.
Yeah, Next Chance You. It is available on Amazon. It's available any bookstore. If they don't have it, ask for it, but you can definitely get it online. I also recorded the Audible version, so it's my voice. So it's also available in that form as well. I love it. I wrote it myself. Something I never thought I would do. I think that, I wrote it with pretty much everybody in mind. I wanted it to be valuable for anybody that picked it up. And so I wrote it with that intent. I also am a self-help guru. I read self-help books constantly, and there's nothing worse than reading a thick, big, deep self-help book and getting to the end of it and going, okay, now what? Like what? This was great. I got nothing. What am I supposed to do? And so I wanted each chapter to have that sharpen up section that tells people exactly how to implement what they just read in that chapter. And I wanted it to be simple enough that people would actually think they could do it and do it.
A real life application, right? So.
Yeah, I think that that's valuable, and hopefully other people will think so too. Yeah.
Well, what I like best about it so far, how far I've gotten, is the stories. So I think people resonate with stories. So you may not resonate with the first story, but then the next story, you're like, oh, she's talking to me. So I think that's what sells the books, and that's what helps people engage in your book, is that you're willing, and the people obviously with, Last Chance You, the players, they allowed you to put their stories in the book as well. And I think that will help.
It's almost like you're talking to them directly through the book, how you impact each of the players that you advise, the students or the human beings first. Then it comes through almost like she has a chance to talk to me. So it's a great way to segue and connect yourself with your audience. So yeah, we were completely stoked to have you on this episode. But before we go, I just get a quick thought. I know we're running a little bit long, but your story got picked up, right? Is there going to be like a movie or a TV show on your story, right? Can you share what you can with our audience about that? It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, I can't share much, but there is a scripted TV series in development right now. Courtney Cox will be playing me in that series. Michael Strahan is also an executive producer. So I'm really excited. It will be similar. It's not Last Chance You, obviously it's scripted and there's actors involved, but it will be my side of the story, pretty much from going back all the way to my first day at East Mississippi. I've always said there were 6 years before Last Chance You of some very valuable stories and athletes that we don't know yet because they weren't on Last Chance You, but their stories are inspiring and amazing. And so we'll get a chance to tell some of those, and then also dive in a little bit to what I was going through personally during that time that I was there as well. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm ready to get it out there for sure.
And one last thing, since it is 2022, can you share a resolution you have for this upcoming year?
Oh, that's a good
for
one.
2022?
That is good. I have so many. So one is just to find the joy. Somebody asked me what my vision for 2022 was, and I'm following my intuition here, but the minute they said your vision, I saw a picture of myself in my mind when I heard that word. And it was a picture of me with my head thrown back, laughing. I mean, just all out laughing with complete joy. And when I got asked that question, that was the picture that came into my brain. And I thought, okay, Brittany, that didn't just happen for no reason. Follow your gut here. And I think that was just a sign that, Brittany, you need to get back to finding that laughter again and finding that joy. And so that's my resolution for 2022, is to do things that make me laugh and make me happy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And before we close, Joe, one last plug for our Valor Cares initiative, please.
Sure. If you own a business and you need help building a website, we would love to help your business out. You can go to our website, askvalormasterminds.com, click on the Valor Cares tab, and submit your information.
Awesome. So Brittany, we were so glad to have you on and share some time with us and our audience. You're a true inspiration, being a mom, a woman, an entrepreneur who succeeded. We wish you the utmost success for this upcoming year. So on behalf of our sponsors, Advanced Septic Services and Fuse Networks, my name is Galen.
And I am Joe.
And virtually coming from the BD local studios in Tacoma, Washington. Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year for watching this episode, listening to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Welcome to Market Boys Minute. What I want to talk about today is youth sports, filming youth sports. So I got 3 quick things to help you videographers out there. If you don't have a nice digital camera, use your iPhone. Your iPhone is a great tool. This tool actually has high resolution and you can go down to high frame rate depending on the model of your smartphone. I recommend 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second for those really silky smooth slow motions. 1080 resolution or 4K resolution, those are in your settings in your phone. The next thing is start filming in horizontal mode because the action goes side to side for the most part. The next thing is get you a monopod. A monopod will help you with stability. So stability for the monopod and you're good to go. Thanks.